Hey gang, welcome to another Beatles update, and I'm really excited about this one because I got some good finds today. One of those days where everything goes right, you have a lucky score. And I'm going to start out this video with something I don't usually do, but I do once in a blue moon, and that's a little VC cheer. And what I got here is some battery acid, otherwise known as Diet Coke, which is probably one of the worst things you could consume, but nevertheless, cheers. A little strong, but good. Anyway, no, I'm excited because I went to my Sunday flea market that I talk about very often here. And there's a guy there that sells records every week, and quite frankly, a lot of times he has a lot of nothing, very familiar titles, and if he has anything good from the Beatles, a lot of times it's ridiculously priced, and today was no exception for a lot of his records. But I was excited because I was able to pick up 6 records here. I'm going to show you, and out of the 6, 4 of them are bootlegs and pretty rare, and they're bootlegs that I had back in my original collection of 30 years back or more, and they're records I've been looking for the last 2 years since I got back into vinyl. So I was so happy to find these all in one spot, and these were not a lot of money, okay? I don't know why, but for some reason this guy, I guess he looks on eBay, or he figures his pricing based on what he sees online in different places, and some of his albums are $100 each, $200. Nobody's going to pay that, but these were like $20 each or so. So these weren't really unreasonable, so that's why I was able to get them. First one here was released in 1980. This is an album called Broadcast. It's an album of the BBC sessions, some of the BBC sessions, and I remember buying this when I was 18 years old, and I'm very glad to get it again. It's really great sound quality. Now it's funny because as I talk about this album of radio performances, the Beatles are going to be having a legitimate album coming out in a couple of months called On Air, Beatles Live at the BBC Volume 2, so this is kind of anticlimactic now in a way to be finding this album. It's not really something that's going to be really of value. You already have one BBC album, and I think you're going to have the second volume coming out legitimately. So this is more for nostalgia purposes than anything else, and it's okay with me. I mean, it brings back memories. The one I originally had was on a black label, BBC Transcription Service. This one's on a green label. It's the same label, but mine was black originally with white letters. This one is green. So it's not 100% faithful to the copy that I had back in 1980 or so, but it's close enough for me, and I'm very happy to get it. And it was not expensive. Here's a jokey kind of album that's good for a laugh. It's called The Beatles vs. Don Ho. Okay, and it's really mostly a gag album. I mean, the Beatle tracks on here are pretty good, but again, probably nothing on here that's really rare or interesting by today's standards, because you have so much stuff that came out on the anthology officially. And it's funny because on the back, they kind of patterned this after the legitimate album, The Beatles versus the Four Seasons, where they had a list of Beatles songs and a list of Four Seasons hits. Over here, they list all the Beatles songs on here, and then they had list one song down here, Tiny Bubbles by Don Ho. So it's funny because there's a list of albums. For a joke, it says also available in this series other albums like, there's a lot of titles here. The Beatles versus Orson Bean, Beatles versus Heartbreak of Psoriasis, also available The Beatles versus the Atlanta Braves, and The Beatles versus Sonny Bono's Refrigerator, and my favorite, also available in this series, The Beatles versus Chocolate Milk. It's kind of ridiculous, but anyway, the label, I might as well show it. Label's kind of goofy. Kind of goofy drawing on there. But this is also an album from '79 or 1980 that came out, and back then that was all you could get as far as rarities go. Right? Here's another album that's, I don't think it's really that important anymore either, really, but back then I loved the cover on this, still do actually. It's called 20 by 4, which is a nice cover. Really like the cover. On the back there, got some photos of the Beatles. And they have some things on here like, there's a song called Peace of Mind, which is not the Beatles, you know. It says unreleased track from Sgt. Pepper recording session. It's not. Peace of Mind. If you ever see a song called Peace of Mind, it is not the Beatles. You know, so on this other stuff here, I mean, too many to mention. You got, I don't know, a version of Every Little Thing that's supposed to be a little different. It says it's sung by George, but it's not sung by George. You know, this is one of those kind of albums, not really worth it as far as the material on it, in my opinion, but just to have it as a nostalgic piece. Okay, here's something that I gave up. This one was a little more expensive because it's a double album. It's a bootleg called Vancouver 1964, and I really kind of missed this one. Again, I look at this is worth it just for the cover photo alone. Picture of John and Paul there, and it's a double record set, as I said. Got a concert photo on the back, group photo. The labels on these, the last two, by the way, they're just plain labels. The one I showed, 20 by 4, it's just a plain label, no writing on it. Same thing for these two, plain labels, no writing. And you get like interviews and press conference on this side one, and then you get radio coverage of the concert. And then you get the concert itself off the PA system. The sound quality is not great on this, but you know, it's nice to have. Beatles in Vancouver. The last two aren't bootlegs, they're imports. And this one is a German import. I mean, I don't know how many imports you can have of the same record, but you know, when you got the bug, you do it, you collect it. And I like that Apple logo in there, and of course, that's the label that it's on. It's a German label, Apple, from Germany. And the last album that I have is also Germany. I used to have this one back in the day with the Beatles. And this one's needs a little bit of glue here. Nothing, it's not, the seam is not ripped. It just needs to be, the cardboard needs to be taped back down. And it'll be fine. And this one is on a blue Odeon label. So, thanks a lot for watching, guys. Take care.